Our clients get 75% of their leads from their podcasts. I read this from a so-called podcast coach on LinkedIn recently. In this episode, I'm going to tell you why a lot of what you read from the podcast gurus is simply made up bullshit. There's a guy on LinkedIn who I've stumbled across a few times in the feed who makes a lot of wild claims over how awesome he is at coaching podcasters. And he offers, frankly, terrible advice about monetization and growth. But because he's in an engagement pod with a well-known LinkedIn influencer, in fact, this person has him as the podcast producer, his followers lap it all up. He's got lots of otherwise uninformed LinkedIn users validating his every view in the comments on autopilot due to their having to agree to an engagement requirement which says, when stuff's posted, you must like it. That is an engagement pod. Those are the rules. And various influencers have these in place on various platforms like LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You name it. If it's a channel, it's got an engagement pod. Well, anyway, let's go back to that post that I mentioned at the beginning of this. Our clients get 75% of their leads from their podcasts. I can categorically tell you this stat is a fabrication. And here's why. Now look, I'm excellent at what I do. I've been doing this since the early 2000s, but even I'm not bringing you 75% of your overall leads in your business. And this is because that's a hugely unlikely goal to reach, even if you were the biggest podcast on the planet. Even John Lee Dumas isn't converting 75% of all of his listeners into buying customers. 75% of all leads from a podcast? Are you joking? Even for bigger brands who have tried and tested marketing channels that are bringing them leads almost every day. That's why this is absolute nonsense. Don't believe me? Okay, let me dissect this ridiculous claim piece by piece. First of all, let me read you the paragraph in full from this particular podcast guru on LinkedIn. Our clients get 75% of their leads from their podcasts. We've made 75% of our prospects podcast listeners. Looking to run this too? Send me a DM request. Alright, I'm going to give you a breakdown of why this is typical made-up guru nonsense. First of all, the claim lacks specifics. It doesn't specify what kind of leads they're referring to, nor does it clarify the nature of these leads. Are these sales leads, marketing leads, or something else? Now, without context, this claim is too vague to be meaningful. The claim is unsubstantiated. He makes a bold claim, 75% of leads coming from podcasts, without providing any evidence or context. In the world of marketing and lead generation, such high figures are rare and usually require substantial proof or case studies to be believable. He's obviously relying on most people accepting it on face value and asking no further questions. Now this might work because once they're following him, they may forget to do the background checks and the due diligence, in which case they'll end up in his sales funnel potentially buying from him. In which case it's a decent risk for him to take, if all he's looking to do is make money from unsuspecting victims. The claim is an overgeneralization. It's suggesting a uniform result, that is, 75% of leads from podcasts across all their clients, which is highly unlikely given the diversity in business models, the audiences, the podcast topics. Each podcast and audience is unique, so results can vary greatly. Now look, this guy is definitely not alone. I'm picking on him because he in particular rubs me up the wrong way with his nonsense. But there are many others just like him or even worse. There's the podcast guru from the UK who made money in property, capitalized on the rise of Clubhouse, exploited bored business owners during lockdown with his sales funnels, and now charges a small fortune for arbitrary podcast coaching at weekends. There's the whole slew of Instagram podcast gurus who promise you the earth and tell you all you need to do is buy their $97 course, which invariably is a PDF of bullet points that you could find for yourself for free by searching Google or YouTube. Then there's the slightly more legitimate-looking podcast agency. These people are usually slick-looking gurus who hang out in suits, post lots of office photos from their website, and then essentially hire editors from the Philippines on Fiverr and artificially inflate the success of this content using click farms in Bangladesh and other areas of the third world nations. Essentially, pure fakery. The mission being to get your podcast launched into the charts so you think they have the first idea what they're doing. Here's a clue. They don't. Now, all this is basic level stuff, but I wanted to help you avoid these people in case you're at a point where you know you need to invest in better results for your podcast, but you don't want to get burned by yet another charlatan. So how about this? Here are my 10 signs the so-called podcast expert you're following on social media is just a self-serving opportunist guru. I'm hoping this will save you a lot of wasted time and money. Gurus promise overnight success, massive listener numbers, and top chart positions. Experts set realistic expectations, focusing on steady growth and quality content. They will encourage you to dismiss charts offhand as a main metric. Gurus offer generic one-size-fits-all strategies that don't consider your podcast's specific mission and goals. Experts provide tailored advice, understanding that each podcast has its own audience and goals. Gurus have all their content funneled to expensive courses filled with total fluff and zero substance. Experts share valuable insights, often through various channels, sometimes even for free or at a very reasonable cost. Gurus, like the chap we've just mentioned, use bold claims and questionable testimonials to lure you in. Experts have a proven track record with real, verifiable success stories and satisfied clients all over their comments on the regular. I mean, just look at my LinkedIn for an example of this. Gurus claim to have secret formulas or hacks for quick success. Look out for anyone mentioning 90 days in particular. Experts only deal with tried and tested podcasting practices and are continuously learning. Gurus focus on short-term tactics that don't offer sustainable growth. Experts help you develop long-term strategies for consistent growth and listener engagement. Gurus often use flashy marketing offering superficial gains. Experts concentrate on encouraging quality content, strong storytelling, and genuine audience connection, not paid-for bot listens. Gurus lack personal experience in any successful podcasting. Experts possess hands-on experience with a history of wins and failures that have shaped their overall knowledge. Gurus offer little to no follow-up on their offerings. Experts provide ongoing support and are fully invested in your podcast's growth and success. Gurus, the primary goal is to sell their courses or services. Experts are driven by a genuine passion for podcasting and helping others succeed. And here's a bonus one for you. Gurus pivoted in from some other totally unrelated industry or space. Experts have a trackable history in podcasting. Hello, podcasting since 2000-2001. So they have a grasp of the industry's history and can predict and quickly identify trends and best practices. Remember, truly successful podcasters didn't get where they are because some LinkedIn hack bro with catchy hooks sold them a blueprint. Don't be dazzled by false promises from any influencer you see on social media. Seek out those who truly know their stuff and are eager to help you grow your podcast properly and sustainably. The so-called podcast expert who gets all the likes and comments is probably just in an engagement pod with some other influencers. So what should you be looking for then when thinking of working with one of these so-called podcast experts? Look for engagement authenticity. Be wary of those with inflated engagement metrics. Genuine experts usually have quite organic interactions with their audience and clients rather than relying on engagement pods, and will have relevant comments. Check for their industry references, whether they're recommended or recognized by reputable figures in the industry. Industry endorsements can be a strong indicator of credibility. Who are they connected to? If they've not been accepted by those credible people in podcasting, chances are they're not credible in podcasting. Evaluate the depth and relevance of the content they're providing you in their courses, their blogs, or their social media. Always insist on getting a sample first. Experts usually offer insightful, nuanced, and actionable advice. Look for adaptability. Now, the podcasting landscape is constantly evolving. A credible consultant stays updated with the latest trends and technological advancements, and if they don't incorporate them into their strategies, they tell you why. Ask them about their processes. A decent, knowledgeable podcast consultant will be able to offer you solutions that match different models of podcasts at various stages of their own journey. If they're trying to sell you a one-size-fits-all blueprint, walk away. Leverage the power of storytelling in your episodes. Okay, you might be thinking, storytelling? That's common advice, Neal. But here's the twist. Integrate micro-stories into each episode, regardless of your podcast's main theme or topic. For example, if you're doing a tech podcast, start an episode with a brief, personal anecdote about how a particular gadget changed your life. Or, if you're discussing history, share a short, vivid tale about a lesser-known historical figure who relates to your main topic. Make that bridge for the listener in their mind. These micro-stories achieve a few things. They immediately hook your listener with something relatable and intriguing that they can visualize. These stories stick in our minds much better than facts or figures, and they add a personal touch, making you more relatable and your podcast more engaging. It's time once again for those all-important download numbers, which will give you an idea of the percentage ranking of your podcast compared with others. If you want to be considered a top 50% podcaster globally, your podcast episode needs to be getting 160 downloads within the first 30 days of its release. You'll want 3,200 downloads within 30 days of release for your episodes if you want your podcast to be considered in the top 10% globally. Top 5%, 7,500 downloads. Top 2%, 20,000 downloads. And if you want to be a genuine top 1% podcaster, your latest episode needs to get 36,000 downloads within the first 30 days of its release. Well, that's it for this latest episode of the Podmaster podcast. If you've enjoyed it, please do leave us a review in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Make sure you're following the show, and you can find out more about the show and stay in touch at podmastery.co. That's podmastery.co. Speak to you next time. The Podmaster is a Podnose podcasting production. Find out more about us at podnose.co.uk. That's podknows.co.uk.